So obviously we went to Porto to meet our client, which is Places for All. Places for All are working towards rating buildings on their accessibility. These ratings consist of the entrances, the exits, the services, the interior, the exterior, and the parking. You can see here this is the type of badge they get given, and this badge is given to provide immediate information on the accessibility conditions of those buildings. So either if you are new to the area and you don't know what the type of building is like, you need to know before you go there, or whether the building itself wants to know whether it should make itself more accessible to users and people coming. Oh, sorry, missed a bit. We also went to obviously speak to our clients so that we could present our research and our initial ideas to gain feedback, obviously because their perspective is the main one for us. And also, being in Porto allowed us to use the metro system out there, which these three had never used before, so it was an unfamiliar journey, and they were able to find issues with that to help us with our project. So these are three projects, three ideas we presented to HexaGo. The first one being accessible journey planning platform, concept 2 being the simplified station naming, and concept 3 being inclusive and customizable map database. So concept 1 was an open source journey planning platform, which will allow users to upload their journey after they've taken it, with certain aspects of where they struggled or different things to look out for, also positives of the journey, so different people with those type of challenges could use it as well. However, as people's accessibility needs are very different, it requires a large amount of information to be gathered, and as it's open sourced, obviously we'd have to trust the public on doing this, so it'd have to be moderated a lot, and that was the feedback we were given. Concept 2, the simplified station naming, was the simple idea. So instead of being Market Square, having a station name for the tram or the bus, it would be Red 2. So obviously for someone coming in, even if especially if they're a tourist or they struggle with the station names, Red 2 or R2 is a lot easier to remember than a station. So the feedback that we got on that was simple, great potential, compatible with existing transport networks and stations in places like Porto and Nottingham. Concept 3 was the inclusive and customizable map database. This would require a large database of many customized maps, so they could be chosen depending on the user's needs and used to plan around this. The feedback we got was a good concept to develop afterwards, almost as a complement to concept 2. So we found that so this was obviously with the large database, it was very hard to do. And from this, we found that HexaGo's our client's favourite was the concept number 2, and he said solution has a lot of potential. Look towards using an online platform. Obviously, it's quite adjustable to different cities and customisable to city to city. He said perhaps look at different map patterns, layouts, obviously for different cities, make it customisable, and obviously we'll have to test it. So what we looked at was different grids, different layouts. So we looked at obviously the square grids, the concentric circles, triangles, hexagons, and we finally settled on the hexagon grid. This was because it was the most organic and customisable to all cities, and also we had backup research from the Urban Mass Transportation Planning book, which we looked into. We found that minimal amount of colours should be used. So when we were doing the square grid, we found that there were many colours, and we found that minimal amounts of colours should be used to keep it simple and as least confusing as possible, especially for those that were colourblind and never using it. And then the zoning system, we found that it should go from the centre outwards, as we found that in European cities, well, especially for European cities, should go centre outwards because European commuters often go from the centre to and from the centre, so obviously in straight lines out from these, whereas in American cities and American commuters go north, south, east, west along the cities, so different.
So initially our aim was to basically focus on people who have accessibility challenges, but then we realized that basically many of the disabilities are still very much stigmatized, so people don't really want to show out that they experience challenges. Also, there are lots of disabilities which are invisible, so thus can create a misunderstanding from the other users. And also many people just don't know that they have specific disabilities and they might need specific assistance. So for example, during this project, Peter realized that he is dyslexic and he was testing on it. So basically, we decided that we need to provide a solution that would cover as many users as possible, and by providing an access to information, we will promote independence and confidence during the daily travel. So we decided that our customer would be the city council and transport companies, because they have authority and they have specific access to make the change. So we will provide a more accessible transportation system for them that will create more, that will be beneficial for them, and that will allow more users to use public transport, will attract more tourists to the cities, and will provide the better economical stabilities for the places. For accessibility challenged citizens, the system will create independence and confidence during their daily travel. For the general public, it will be just a more simple navigation, and when they're traveling, they wouldn't experience so many difficulties because it will be just simple and universal. So from this is an explanation of our final idea. The final concept is called HexaGo. This is, by the way, some printed out maps that we have. Final concept is called HexaGo, and initially it's a database and foundation for the further developments, all the further services and concept that we might have in the future. So we decided to divide city maps on the color zones, because colors is something very universal. It does not rely on language. It's really easy to remember. Then we will divide the zones onto smaller hexagons. Each hexagon would have a letter number code, which would make it easier to remember and easy to understand where you are exactly. Each hexagon have a defined distance, which is 1,000 meters. We've chosen the distance because it's a walking distance, and it's also almost the distance between the stations, so we would have maximum 2 stations per hexagon, which would make it easier to navigate and just understand where you are exactly. We have developed this grid system, which is hexagons divided by triangles. It's very customizable. It's really, really easy to adjust to any kind of maps, especially we found this difficult when we're making the port map, as it's a coastal area. Hexagons worked actually perfect to follow the complicated line. In the future, we're planning to collaborate with color art to make it more colorblind friendly, and we're not just aiming to provide a more customizable maps. We're also trying, like in the future, we might change the stop names and the whole stop signs, so it wouldn't be just the Phoenix Park, it would be R23 Phoenix Park. So for people who may struggle to remember the names of the stations, they would have an access to remember just the code. And this is how it might work in the city. We'll provide the whole map and zoomed in map of the area on each bus station and tram station. We'll also provide the zoomed in area in the areas in place, so people would have easy access to navigation. They would just easily understand where they are, and especially that's beneficial for people who experience accessibility challenges and cognitive impairments, because these people often do not use any applications and smartphones, so they found that it's really difficult for them to follow any of those. So we decided that we need to make as many printed maps in the city as possible. However, along with this, we will also provide the application service, because it's very easy and really easy to create in this context. So that's our concept.
Cool. A couple of examples as to how this works with and benefits a few different types of user. So the city council, or transport companies, which are essentially a customer as well as a user, they start by contacting the consultancy service. The consultancy service, or HexaGo design team, then outlines guidelines for the HexaGo maps and discusses how those may be implemented. City maps are then redesigned to follow the developed system, and then things like online maps and travel applications specific and customized to that city are generated, and the HexaGo city ranking system, so that city is then added to the ranking system, similar to Places for All, and that influences tourism and draws people to the area. The Accessibility Challenge citizen has access to those improved maps on city streets, stops and stations, as well as printed maps and digital maps if they want to use those. They have access to a travel planning application, which I'll talk about in a bit. And they have access to any of the information about the stops and stations and the accessibility parameters that they need. So for instance, someone's parameters who has cognitive impairments are going to be very different to someone with physical impairments or sensorial. That obviously then leads them to be able to plan their travel a lot more easily, and because of that they have a lot more confidence in independent travel. Our general public person, so this could be just someone who lives in that city and wants a simpler way to navigate, or it could be a tourist, someone visiting the city for the first time. They have access to improved maps exactly the same on city streets, stops, stations, printed and digital if they want to use those. They also have access to the travel planning application, and ultimately it's easier travel planning for them and better navigation of their city. Really helpful, because it's a universal system, it's going to be helpful to be able to turn up to a new city and be able to plan your travel and navigate easily straight away. The app, which we've mentioned a couple of times, is actually a further development. So you can think of the HexaGo maps as essentially a database or a foundation upon which other services and products and features can be built on. So there's a lot of suggestions as to how the app could be used, and we have a few interfaces. A lot of that is covered in our report. We have a short video, which we intend to use as a bit of a promo video that explains a little bit about how it works. If you want to.
Just go there.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. Just open it. Sorry, just you as well here.
It's the sound up as well.
Our aim is to develop a solution for mobility issues that people face in busy cities during their daily lives. Challenges in mobility, be it through confusing navigation or lack of inclusive access, can affect people's confidence in travelling independently and keep them from travelling to new places. Through our research, we found that one of the biggest issues in independent mobility for those suffering accessibility challenges was access to information. For example, knowing what method of public transport will take you where, whether that transport will feature the access you need, or simply knowing what colour light you're in. Creating a public transport map that is accessible, easy to understand, and rich with useful information can help anyone experiencing physical, cognitive, or sensorial accessibility challenges to feel more confident in planning their route and completing it independently. Our team has designed a universal navigation language for inner cities. This will be delivered as a service, collaborating with city councils and travel companies. Our designers will use a uniform set of guidelines to divide city maps into custom colour number zones. These zones will provide an easy way to understand where you or your destination is in relation to the city around you, and provides a simple way of referring to an area. This is particularly helpful for anyone who may struggle to follow long, complicated area codes or names. Additionally, these zones will be a uniform size across all cities. In this way, distances between destinations can be easily understood by the user. These features can make city maps universal and inclusive. They could be simple to understand and recognise, and provide the perfect platform on which to build specialised solutions to accessibility challenges. We are aiming to provide an independent and confident travel opportunity for everyone. The City Council has a more accessible transportation system, meaning more users of public transport and more tourists. The general public will have a simpler navigation system, and anyone with accessibility challenges will be able to achieve independency and confidence during their daily travel. HexaGo, travel made easy.
I just close it.
Okay, so how will HexaGo work as a company? How will it make money? Okay, so initially, as its first,
I'm just going to stop that video from playing. Please do.
Just automatic with
Um,
place second user.
I've heard it said that in ancient
this
China,
is not our presentation.
But
We did not make a clock. I think that was
Control.
Oh my
controller. Okay. Okay. So how does HexaGo make money? So initially, when we first put ourselves out there or put HexaGo out there, there's no basis for for a customer to use us. So the customer being the city council or the travel company. So to start up, we based ourselves on EU and research grants, and then have a subsidised fee for customers. So the city council will pay a smaller fee to begin with. And then the user then pays for the service they provide. So it's paid for a little bit by the customers, the users. Sorry. As HexaGo becomes bigger and less reliant on grants, we'll have more customers, meaning we'll be able to provide more of a service and not rely on grants to pay for that. Okay, so how does HexaGo benefit Places for All client, and how does Places for All benefit HexaGo? So HexaGo itself is the zoning system of the city. So Places for All is a rating system for the places. So Places for All can currently, as Sean explained earlier, rates different places. So they'll be able to rate the different zones that we provide, then makes places more accessible and the neighbourhoods that are in more accessible. So you'll be able to look at a map and go, oh, that's got a rating of 4.5 or percentage, as it is with Places for Go. Then makes the actual travelling to the place more accessible and more mobile.
Bit of feedback. So throughout this project, we've had really positive feedback from our client, which has been really nice. He really liked the grid and the way that it was implemented and could be implemented into any city. He also liked the fact that we were using a colour letter code, which was something that came from our initial meetings with our client, really. And he's looking forward to further developments and already thinking about how that could be integrated with Places for All. We also were lucky enough to get a bit of feedback from two of our users, so two of the people that we interviewed in our individual interviews. Interviewee A was colourblind, and they liked the concept. They thought it was quite strong. They liked the grid referencing system and felt that it was quite transferable to standard mapping systems. However, they wanted to see more text graphics. More text on the graphics, and they thought it would be a good feature to be able to zoom in and zoom out on a specific area, which is something that we have since included. They're just in front of you there. User B was dyspraxic and hyperlexic, and they thought that the colour system really helped them focus on the way that they were navigating and focus on separate areas of the map. They also wanted to see more text involved in the close-ups, because we showed them that concept after we created those, to help them sort of navigate post and pre-transport street to street. So overall, feedback has been really good. There's definitely a few things that have yet to be changed and developed, but it's been a successful project, hopefully, and our client's quite happy with it.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
much.